All right, let's bring in Dave Thomas, voice of the Riders. Dave, there was a lot of panic online earlier today because a lot of people are posting, hey, today is the last full day of practice for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Whoa, hold on, pump the brakes. Tomorrow, because there's a game on Friday, tomorrow's a walkthrough. That's why today is the last full day of practice. So it caught maybe some of the non-super diehards off guard. But what did you see in the final day of essentially training camp 2025?
Well, to wrap it up in a bow real nice is the fact that there wasn't a ton of compete periods today as far as, one-on-one, big physicality. Let's see what happens in that breakdown. It was more today focused around team play. So do you know where you need to be on this play call? And that was gone over and over and over. There wasn't even as much of an emphasis on special teams or even kicking and punting like we had seen the day previous. It was a little windy. It wasn't terrible, but the onus, I think, was on the players to perform and show off their knowledge of the playbook, if you will. So that was the primary focus through the day today.
One of the things you always hear about the New England Patriots, and you talk about the dynasty they had over all those years, no matter, because there was roster turnover, that they played situational football better than anybody else. Exactly what you're saying, knowing where you need to be in certain times in certain situations. And there is that. I know in getting a chance to see some of this live, and you see it all the time, like when they call field goal, and then everybody runs in, boom, on the offense and on the defense or whatever and sets up, or it's an extra point or it's a punt. And you have to have your head on a swivel because all of a sudden you may be somewhere on the sideline. Like you may not even be involved in that prior play, but you got to be ready to go. So stuff like that. And those are the kind of those mental mistakes that we've seen Rider teams in the past, not so much last year, but get caught and it's 5 yards, it's 10 yards, and it's 15 yards, putting yourselves back because essentially people weren't paying attention to detail.
Well, the other point of it is it actually is much deeper than that. Like the understanding of the playbook and your assignment is not just, okay, I've got to go out on the punt return team. It's also, hey, if so-and-so goes down, I've got to go out and I've also got to be on the kick return team or the kick cover team. And I had a great conversation with Kent Majuri, the special teams coordinator of the Roughriders, about this last season. We talked a little bit about how difficult his job is at times when there are in-game injuries because his special teams units are the ones that are most affected. So emphasizing where you need to be, when you need to be, and how you need to be there if this happens or this contingency falls, that was one of the focuses today. And again, you got to prepare for it, and that was one of the things the team did today.
You had a chance to chat with Coach Mace. This one is talking about the importance of Friday's game in the evaluation of players because nothing's set in stone. Cuts aren't made until Saturday. So there's still jobs up for grabs.
Very important. That's what it is. Jobs are on the line, and that'll be the final check mark for us to kind of validate or solidify our thoughts or prove us wrong going into it. So we want to make sure that we do enough to give those guys ample amount of opportunity to prove that they deserve to be here. I'd say extremely important.
In the offseason, when you saw J.O. assembling this roster and then the releases would come out, more talent, teams getting deeper and deeper. And I had said months ago, when it is final cut down day, Dave, are we going to be surprised at all if we see some familiar names on there not making this club this year because someone came in that is talented that beat them out for a job?
You know what? At this point, really nothing would surprise me because Coach Mace all along has said that every position is under evaluation, and we want the best possible players playing. Mark Mueller, offensive coordinator for the Roughriders, told us yesterday, in fact, that, you know what, we believe in everybody that we brought in here. If they weren't here, or if they are here, we believe that they can step in and play in the Canadian Football League. And there's a lot of players that have taken steps forward that are going to make some very difficult decisions going forward. Now, I don't buy into the fact, I know that football is a business, right? We all know that. And at some point, salary considerations against the salary cap have to come into play. But also saying that, I also believe that the family culture that you have is a loyalty one. Even though you shouldn't have that in football, there is some loyalty there. So if the coaching staff believes that you can perform at the level you have previously, I think you're going to be okay. So will there be names on that list that have some experience? Definitely there will be, because they brought in players with experience. Which players are going to be, we're going to wait and find out on Saturday, when the CFL cutdown day arrives. But Friday is going to go a long way to determining that.
All right, I'm very curious. I have a question for you, but we'll get to that. We're going to take our first break here in the hour, and then when we come back, we're going to hear from Coach Mace about what he wants to see from his number ones on Friday night against the Bombers. Saskatchewan Roughrider Training Camp reports are brought to you by Red Zone Sports Bar behind the Travel Lodge in Saskatoon. Dave Thomas, voice of the Riders, is with us. The question I want to ask you, and you don't have to give the answer until Monday. You don't have to answer at all.
Oh, perfect.
But I know that you would have a list. Maybe there's one player, three, maybe there's 5 players on there. Just a hunch from everything you've seen that are either making this club or not making this club. And when the cuts come on Saturday, it's either going to confirm exactly what you've seen, either yes or no on this club. And that's what I'm most curious about. Obviously, you're not going to say anything now, because a lot has yet to be decided. But guys will always play themselves onto rosters and play themselves off to rosters. Am I getting close to the target? Do you have that little list kind of assembled?
Yeah, I have it in my mind. I can go out on a limb and give you a couple of names if you want.
That are going to make it or not going to make it?
Oh, they're going to make it. I'm not going to tell you who's not going to make it. I know that Trevor Harris will be there, AJ Ouellette, Jamarcus Hardrick, and Logan Furland. I know they're all in. Kean Schaefer-Baker, sign them up. Micah Johnson, Roland Milligan Jr., they'll both be there. Jackson Ford is good.
Can I call a timeout on the punt team here?
Hey, you gave me the option.
Those are not the guys. It's all those, I mean, in hour number 2 of the show, we're going to hear from Braden Masiri, who is, I even asked you, who is he? All he's done is make plays all camp. And we'll dive into that. But like I said, when you have a roster of, so how many guys would still be in camp? Are we still 70?
I believe it's 84.
High 70s. Okay, still 84. You've got the counters, the non-counters. There are some people that can go under the radar a little bit. I mean,
oh, for sure there are. And Braden Masiri, just again, he was here in Regina for the CFL Combine. He blatantly says, I didn't perform like I thought I was going to, and I didn't hear my name called on draft day. So the Riders, they looked at him, they thought, okay, he might be a fit, and he's come in and all he's done is catch passes. And even at one point he said, you need some extra kicking help here, right? You're going to do some extra kicking. Let me go field some of those. So what did Darian Durant tell us? You got to do what you got to do on special teams to make the team.
All right. Coach Mace, you asked him, what does he want to see from his number ones on Friday night when the Bombers come to town?
Whether it's ones or, whoever the hell's out there, man, it's execution. It's the standard. And again, we talked about that from rookie camp, even before the guys understood the culture and the vets coming. There's expectations of when we call a play of what we're looking to get done to execute. So execution regardless.
Dave, out of all of the stuff that I've heard Mace say all along, is that sort of like the most consistent and underlying message is it doesn't matter when you're on the field, you execute or it's not happening. You are not part of this club.
Yeah, and execute to the standard, right? So, right, I'm going to use my hands. If you've got your hand way up and you're saying you got to meet this expectation level and this standard for each and every rep and you're not getting there, you're going to be called out about it. And the other thing that I think is remarkable, well, not remarkable, but interesting. Recall last year, right? There was consequences if you jumped offside, right? The whole team would run wind sprints and do whatever. This time around, it's a little bit different. So if you jump offside, play stop, rep is over, you have to go and you have to sprint to the other end of the field and back. and you lose your reps. So you lose an opportunity to show what you can do and show off your skill set. So you keep jumping offside, your reps are going to be largely diminished. And boy, has that worked, because at the start of rookie camp, I tell you, there was a lot of D linemen that were gone and missing reps. Hey, we need a linebacker in here to fill in for this DN. But by the time we've got to main camp, and now that we're at this point, there was one that I saw today, two today, one on defense and one on offense. A receiver jumped offside on offense because they misread the snap count. But also, every quarterback that comes in is using a different cadence. So you got to be dialed in and ready to go for that. And that's the execution part that he's talking about.
Could you imagine if Nick Dembski was still on the Riders roster? He's been offside for the past decade. We wouldn't see him at practice. He would just be running from one end of the field to the other. He is 4 yards offside on every play for the past 8-9 years. Just again and again and again.
We can't talk about that here in Rider Nation because we had Ray Elgard. Ray Elgard wouldn't have been at camp. Come on, let's face it.
No, with Ray, I think you were seeing it wrong. You had the wrong angle. Ray, he was always on side. You just had the wrong angle. You were looking at it wrong. And then you got a chance to ask Mace about grassroots football in Saskatchewan and how it contributes to the Riders and everything that we've been growing over this past 100 and some years.
We've talked about this before. I think in this province, when it comes to football, whether it's flag, whether it's minor football, it's run so efficiently from the grassroots all the way up until they go to college or junior and ultimately the pros. So it's no shock the amount of players that I think they produce and put out, and their mentality of how they attack the game and how hard they freaking work. To me, you can't have too many Saskatchewan, players on the roster, man. That's kind of the MO of what we want to be, identify as a team. So they have all those intangibles, man, and every single last one of them are true to Saskatchewan. So you love to see it.
I know that there's no token spots on this roster. The talent has to be there, but we produce some pretty good football players in this province.
Look at the roster. It's incredible,
I know.
Right? I started breaking it down. Mitchell Picton, Daniel Weeb, Deshaun Mims. That's the receivers from Saskatchewan. Then defensively, you've got Jackson Ford kicking around, right? Then you can give an honorable mention to Tavon Campbell, who played at the U of R, as well as Nelson Lecombo. Give an honorable mention to Nick Weeb, who's from Alberta and played for the U of S Huskies. All, again, did their formative development here in Saskatchewan. Logan Furland on the offensive line from Saskatchewan. So you may get tired of hearing that, but boy, the Saskatchewan Roughriders have supported grassroots football in a lot of different ways, most recently with that $1.3 million contribution. But boy, is it paying off. And it's kind of similar to some hockey stories you hear, right? Daniel Weeb, for example, he grew up in Rosetown. They didn't have enough players to have two teams. So what do? Well, you enter in the Saskatoon League. So you're driving, the 110 kilometers one way to get into Saskatoon to play a game. So it's intriguing. They're all too young then to stop by the Red Zone Sports Bar to take in their daily specials of the 69-cent wings, but they could have. You like that one?
Dave, that was a hitch screen that just went 25 yards for a touchdown. How you beautifully put that in there.
I'm still hoping for delivery. I'm not going to kid you.
Okay. High expectations coming out of, because he was injured when he got drafted and eventually made it on the field, talking about Nick Weeb, and then he gets hurt again. It's year two. When you're drafted that high, there are expectations. There's no way around it. How has Nick Weeb looked in this training? Is he better? Is he 100%? And how is he performing?
He's 100% is what he told me. The Riders are playing it cautious with him, right? He retweaked the knee last year, and they don't want that to happen. So they've been cautious with him. They've been limiting his reps a little bit, but he's playing on special teams. He's running full steam. He's making plays when he has an opportunity. But that linebacker room, I was going to say mess, but that's the wrong word. Like, the depth at linebacker that this team has in camp right now is absolutely off the chart. Like, there are going to be so many difficult decisions to figure out who's going to play linebacker for this team. Because you got to think, right? Jameer Thurman, although he's a little nicked up right now, right? He missed yesterday's training camp session. So Jameer Thurman, you got to know he's a lock. CJ Reavis, who's become one of the most vocal leaders on defense for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and maybe, in my humble opinion, one of the most underestimated defenders in the Canadian Football League. So you know that he's got a spot. And then you've got the other spot at linebacker, and there's so many great options, right? Like CJ Avery. You've got AJ Allen that have both played that position. And then you've got other guys like Braxton Hills, who's come in and done everything that you could imagine that he would do, right? Like, then you've got guys that are returning as well. So that linebacking group, boy, is it deep, but boy, is it going to be hard to choose. I didn't even mention Antoine Brooks Jr.
Well, a guy in his time was limited, but when he did play, he seemed to play well, had a great camp. Malik Straker, nothing but potential and upside for a guy like that. And he's Canadian. Like, you can't, when you're flipping ratio, and said, you've got to have those linebackers, you've got to have that depth, and if you can have some Canadian ones. So I think it lines up there. I think probably, and maybe it's not going to be a secret anymore, the Roland Milligan, shadow that he casts, because he's so good and he's so dominant on that Rider defense. Like you said, the Averys and the Revises or whatever maybe don't get the run in the media that they should. We know how good they are because Milligan is just such next level good that we know what we have. I don't necessarily know that all the other offensive coaches know who else is out there besides Milligan. Because you can't just stay away from Milligan. You're staying away from other guys as well now, too. And, and if Milligan can just pick up where he left off last year and everybody else is following that lead. On the Thurman front, are you worried? Do you think he would play Friday, or is he going to be one of the vets that maybe isn't going to be dressing against the Bombers?
I don't know whether or not he will or won't dress. I can't give you any great insight. I've been trying to read Coach Mace all week long to get an idea of what he might put out on the field on Friday, because he is very obviously meticulous in his preparation, right? He wants this team to be performing, and I was going to say at its peak, but no, he wants to be right where he wants them to be. He wants them to be performing on the same page and ready to go come week 1, which all of a sudden is 8 nights from now, right? Like, we are 8 days away from the regular season opening. So I don't know how much he needs to see to be convinced that everybody's ready to go. But Jameer Thurman has been excellent. I would expect nothing less. So, to me,
especially if he's a little dinged, I get it. We don't need to. I mean, it's Jameer Thurman. If you're gonna give other guys, how's Joe Coach been? The punter that was brought back. Have we seen anything from practice? Where is he? Do you think he's gonna get some reps on Friday night? I mean,
absolutely. Bailey Flint and Joe Coach, I can almost guarantee you they'll both be kicking the football.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not have a great kicker you can't not have a great punter in the CFL these days.
Mm-hmm.
Such a critical piece of flipping the field. And remember, for the longest time, when sometimes the Riders necessarily didn't, or they had guys that maybe didn't know how to play the conditions properly, and just what a hole that can put you in. Game in, gate out. And that when you're switching at quarters, it could be like, oh no, we're done for. But it seems they've addressed that. So, Flint had a rough game. There's no doubt about it. But do you give him the start on Friday night, or do you let Coach go at it and maybe take the pressure off and then put Flint in for the second half, or however they're going to split it up?
I don't know how they're going to split it up. If I was to guess, my best educated guess would be that Bailey Flint will punt at least the first half, maybe even the third quarter, depending how it goes. Because the rough game that he had, the better adjective is inconsistent, right? He'd fire a great one and a not so great one off the side of his foot. And Coach said, well, sorry, cough there. Let everyone know. Basically, what Coach said is that he was nervous and he could feel his nerves going in. And so he's quite concerned about the nerves, because he hadn't played in a couple of years, right? The last time he kicked was in 23 with Hamilton. So Bailey Flint had some nerves, and he had a lot on his mind, right? Not only going out and punting the football, he also had to be keeping mindful of making sure he was ready to hold a kick for Brett Lothar. So
Yeah.
Bailey Flint had a lot on his mind. I can see him coming out and being given every opportunity to succeed, and then find out what you have with Joe Couch afterwards.
Who are the top two DNs from last Saturday in Winnipeg? If Malik Carney is a lock on one side and Luke said you got to find the other side, who were your top two last week?
Haba Baldonado was getting a lot of play there this week.
Okay.
And again, that's an interesting move and great on Haba because it just shows the progression that he's had over the last couple of years in Saskatchewan, right after coming from Pitt. He is one that's definitely stood out and is making a case for it. Eric Black is a name to consider, as is Aaron Patrick. Whether they're all playing the end or not, there's going to be a rotation there, and it's going to be a solid group. And it's interesting because one of the knocks that I kept hearing over and over and over again about the Saskatchewan Roughriders in 2024 was their inability to pressure the quarterback. Well, if you look at the Pro Football Focus stats, the Saskatchewan Roughriders actually led the Canadian Football League in quarterback pressures, 303 over the 18-game regular season schedule, with Malik Carney getting the most out of anybody in the CFL. With his win percentage, so of course, right, if you win your battle on the offensive line or at the line of scrimmage, you get a plus, right? And he was at 17.6%, which is pretty darn good. So I'm curious because, like I said, the knock, the perceived knock, as I use air quotes, is that the Riders couldn't get pressure with just a four-man front. The numbers from PFF would dispute that.
All right, Dave Thomas, voice of the Riders, will wrap the preseason. It's going to be a nice night for football, sunny and 24 at kickoff. The Bombers are coming to town. That means the 620 CKOM Cooperators Rider Broadcast Network pregame show will start Friday at 4, so it's an abbreviated sports cage, only an hour of Barney. And then we turn it over to football, and kickoff goes just after 7. Today was the last full day of Saskatchewan Roughrider training camp, and all of our reports have been brought to you by the Red Zone Sports Bar behind the Travel Lodge in Saskatoon. Now, there's going to be some changes on offense for the game. Deshaun Mims was running with the number ones today because Keon Schaefer-Baker wasn't. Mims has had a great camp. And then there's a guy who has, for a lot of us, we don't know who Braden Maziri is. He's just gone out and quietly had an outstanding training camp and is really going to make some decisions hard come the weekend about when this roster is constructed. And Dave Thomas had a chance to catch up with him earlier today after practice.
Tell me, how has this professional camp experience been?
You know, honestly, I think it's been a dream come true. You know, I've been waiting to play this. I've been playing this game since I was 7 years old, and I've always wanted to step on the field in a professional setting, no matter where it's going to be. And, you know, I've enjoyed every moment of it. You know, I've been able to learn a lot from the vets, you know, from guys like Trevor, Shea, Sam, Keyshawn, all those guys. They've been really helpful, helped me get used to the, you know, the professional side of the game. It's honestly been a dream come true. Dream come true.
Been a heck of a journey, though, from Western to the Combine, now to here. Can you take me through that process and how you ended up with the Roughriders?
Yeah, so essentially for me, you know, my initial route in high school was looking more towards Division I. COVID hit, unfortunately, so that kind of limited my options. And when it came down to it, I thought about what's going to feel like most home for me, and that was Western. You know, got there, didn't start my first 3 years on offense, but I made sure to get on the field in any way I can, whether, well, that was on special teams, did everything I could to contribute. My third year was when my official starting on the offensive side of the ball, and I just kind of ran with it and made the most of it. By my fourth year, which was this past year, you know, I kind of just took another step forward. I made sure to really excel my game in all the aspects that I knew I needed to work on. You know, once I got that, initially I was invited to the Invitational Combine, thought, you know, I deserved to be at the National with, you know, those other guys just based off my film and the versatility that I bring to the game. And then, you know, thankfully I got that call to be bumped up to the National Combine. Didn't test as well as I wanted to at the National Combine, but, you know, I can't control everything. I can only control how I respond to things. You know, from there I made sure that every aspect in the on-field portion was the best it can be. I gave my best in my one-on-ones and the individual drills and the compete period of it. The draft night, you know, it was a long night for me. Fortunately, didn't get to hear my name called, as, you know, me and my agent discussed. You know, it was in the likes of being called, but you know what? It didn't come down to it. You know, at the end of the day, like I told him, is that whatever happens, I'm going to be ready for whatever opportunity comes. And you know, I'm thankful that it was the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Of all the interviews I had, you know, I definitely felt like Saskatchewan was the best feeling for me. Definitely felt like home. And now that I'm here, looking at the beautiful stadium, you know, interacting with the coaches, the fans on a daily basis, this is the exact atmosphere I'd like to picture myself in. It's been an amazing journey so far.
Are you playing with a chip on your shoulder, or maybe something to prove?
I guess you could say that. You know, definitely seeing guys drafted before me. You know what? I definitely thought that I should have been gone before some guys. But you know what? That's not my call. I don't make those decisions. Those are the guys in the head offices and the coaches looking at certain aspects. The only thing that I'm going to do is just come out here and just bust my ass every day and show the coaches that I want to be here. You know, I'm trying to learn and soak up as much knowledge as I possibly can. Especially like I said earlier, from those vets like Sam, Keyshawn, Shea, Dell, all those guys, Mitch, and you know, even Trevor Harris. You know, that guy's one of the greatest of all time, and I'm just trying to take in as much knowledge as I can and just kind of bring whatever they can teach me to the field and just do what I can do.
Did you ever have a welcome to the CFL moment? I know it hasn't been that long, but you know, Trevor Harris throwing you a pass sounds like a remarkable day.
It's definitely a remarkable thing when you see him throwing you the ball, but I think honestly my welcome to the CFL moment was just kind of when the vets got here and seeing the intensity and the speed that the jump brings from university to here. You know, people always talk, oh yeah, the jump is incredible, and you come in thinking, oh, you know, I've played football for long enough, but I don't think I wasn't prepared enough for the jump to the next level. But you know, as I kind of got my feet underneath me and I kind of settled into it, I feel like, you know, I deserve to be here, and I feel like I can play at this level with all these guys. It doesn't matter who's lined up across from me. I think, you know, this jump and, you know, again, learning from these guys has just allowed me to become the best version of myself.
You said at Western to get on the field, you went to special teams. At different times, I've seen you looking at fielding punts, running out there saying, I'll do whatever. Is that an accurate statement? You'll do whatever, and if it comes to having to field a punt, you'll do it?
Absolutely. You know, in my university career, I was the starting punt returner for Western for numerous years, had one of the highest punt return averages in the country. You know, that was something I've always prided myself in doing. I've done it since I was little, and, you know, even when I get here, you know, I may not be out there catching punts, but it doesn't matter where I get put. The only thing I'm going to do is just do my job to the best of my ability, and whatever's going to push this team forward and help us get a win at the end of the day, I'm going to do that. Doesn't matter where I'm at on the field.
Your coach says, kind of remind him of a Joe, who was a larger-than-life personality in this dressing room a year ago. Your reaction?
You know, I think it's a good testament to who I am as an individual. But you know, Joe was his own person, and I'm just trying to do me. You know, my parents always say, you know, do you to the best of your ability, find the good in every scenario, and just kind of live your life to how you want to live it. And that's exactly what I bring to the table. You know, I'm always going to be the happy, extroverted individual, always trying to, you know, make guys laugh and to have fun in the locker room. But you know, there is a point of seriousness where you have to bring in that professionalism. So I think that's something I'm still trying to wrap my head around in certain scenarios. But you know, the guys are getting me right for sure.
Appreciate your time. All the best moving forward.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you for your time.
That's Braden Masseri, rookie receiver out of Western. I was just on his Instagram page, and there's a reel of him in a game, I think from last season, where he breaks 3 tackles and scores a touchdown off a bit of a screen pass. One of these guys, I don't think anybody had any expectations for, and all he's done is show up every day since rookie camp and make plays. These are the kind of players that we all, as Rider fans, we love when these guys emerge, because this could be the next one. Is this the next cog in the wheel of the great Canadian Air Force version 2.0? If Fantus and Bag and those guys were 1.0, you know, to go along with Emilus and Schaefer Baker, how is he it? He's in tight, he's in tough to make the roster, but from everything he's done, and Dave said, it's great. Hey, don't forget, Friday night, we'll wrap the preseason. The Bombers are coming to town to take on the Riders. The 620 CKRM Cooperators Rider Broadcast Network pregame show will start at 4 o'clock on Friday. That means you get an abbreviated SportsCage. And then Dave and Luke will have the call at 7 o'clock right here on the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders all season long. Proud to be doing it again, as we're into our 4th decade of doing this, which is awesome. It's 620 CKRM. We were just talking Riders with Kelly Kirsch on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline, and that home opener. Don't forget, if you want to go to the home opener and the Labor Day Classic, the Watermelon Pack is for you. It's a great way for you to check out a couple of the hottest games on the Riders schedule this year. Home opener being June 5th, so next week. The Labor Day Classic on August 31st. Package includes tickets to both games, starting at just $78 plus tax. Speaking of the Bombers coming to town on Friday, looks to be great weather-wise. Kickoff, forecast, sunshine, 24 degrees, tiny breeze. Should be an awesome night for football. Lots going on today. Let's see. It's the final day of training camp. There's walkthrough tomorrow. So today was like the last official day. Walkthrough tomorrow, game on Friday. We heard from Coach Mason hour 1. And if you missed any of those conversations, go back and listen to the podcast. You can download it, Apple, Spotify. If you like and subscribe to that, it's just going to show up wherever you're getting your podcast from these days. Even on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. This stuff shows up automatically. And Mace was talking about that Friday night, still the evaluation. Cuts happen Saturday all across the league. Roster spots are up for grabs. And I had asked Dave, is Mace serious when he said that everybody's got to earn their job? And he said, yes. It's been the message since before camp, into rookie camp, main camp. Nothing is set in stone. Well, there's a few. And I also asked Dave if on Monday, once the cuts are done, there's going to be some people that are going to make the team that will surprise Rider fans, and there's going to be some people that maybe don't make the team. Maybe some familiar names that we know and like, that for whatever reason, somebody beat him out. And we'll ask him on Monday if that list he has going in his head kind of matches up. Because he'd be watching this just like everybody else. I think there's a lot of people, that we just automatically assume, but maybe they're not having a great camp. And as Dave said, it comes down to execution. Another stat that Dave brought up, a lot of people were knocking the Riders last year and their D line. They don't get any sacks. They don't get any pressures. But then the way that it all worked out is when you went to Pro Football Focus, actually the Riders were leading the league in quarterback pressures. Maybe they were leading the league in sacks, but they were getting pressures. Sacks are great. It's like a dunk in basketball. It's a glory thing. Looks good. But there wasn't a ton. The sack leader in Charleston Hughes, who, by the way, we got word from Charleston, he's actually flying this afternoon. So he's going to make it up to us. He's going to come onto the show when he's done traveling, maybe the next week or two. He was beside himself that last year somebody won the sack title in the CFL, having only 9 sacks. But sacks were down. Quarterback play was up. Quick release, all of that. So pressures are key. The Riders were leading the league in quarterback pressures. And one of the guys that was part of that from last year was a Rider who, by the end of the season, was playing some really good football. Dave had a chance to catch up with Lake Corte Moore and ask him about that Rider defense.
Now, you obviously have been through a training camp before. Are you where you want to be at right now?
Yeah, I think so. I feel really comfortable. I know when I came in as a rookie, I'd learned a whole new system. And then last year with the whole coaching change, I had to learn a whole new system again. And then this year is a system that I'm familiar with, everything that I know. I feel like I'm playing faster, stronger, and just not overthinking everything because I already know it. It's kind of second nature to me from last year. So it's made it a lot more comfortable, and I feel like I'm playing pretty well right now.
One thing that you've done over the years is I don't want to say transformed your body, but you've changed your body type in the off-season work that you've done. Did you change up anything this year?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this year I realized what it would be like to be an end playing in this league. And I kind of went back to that last year of college where I was a little bit lighter, stuff like that. And I want to be able to contribute as much as I can, no matter where it is, whether it's special teams or on the D-line. So this year I kind of came in a little bit lighter, but try to be stronger as well and be able to run and all that and just get after it.
I talked to some of your teammates and we talk about expectations and they say, well, nobody has any higher expectations than I have for myself. What are your expectations for yourself?
Just execute every play the best that I can, go out there and compete and really just play this game, not only just for myself, but also for everyone in our room. I think that's the big thing that Coach Mace preaches is we're all a family. And if you do your job and work together as a unit, we'll be able to get the ultimate goal at the end of the year, which is hopefully hosting that Grey Cup.
Can you tell me about your off-season approach and the fact that you talked to some of the folks like Coach Mace said, we didn't get the job done last year. I would submit there was a lot of things that you did accomplish, but did that disappointment of not getting to the Grey Cup fuel you any differently in the off-season?
For me, anyways, last year when I hurt my knee there, that kind of was a reset for me. It kind of sucked. It was the first injury I think I've had in my career ever, and first games I've ever missed ever playing football. So that was just a tough thing for me to swallow near the end of the year. And then on top of that, I was trying to get back to possibly play in the Grey Cup, and so with that, I guess it hurt a lot, obviously, because my goal was to play in that Grey Cup and get there. But it also just hurt not being out there and helping the team in that West Final, and watching it from home was really tough for me. And that kind of, after that, I hit a low, I feel like, because I ended up going back to Vancouver and I watched the Grey Cup, and I was like, oh, all my friends and family are out here and all this stuff. They're watching the Grey Cup, but I wish that I was playing in it. And after that, I kind of just hit a low and was like, I need to make sure that I don't feel like this ever again. And I get to that area where we're in it every year and we're pushing to be in it every year. And so that was my realization with it. And also I just wanted to be out there with my brothers playing and contributing to try and get there as well.
Take me through the mindset, the mental approach following up from an injury. As a fan, we hear, oh, it could be 2 or 4 weeks that you're out, but we don't understand what goes into the rehab and trying to get back into that playing shape and getting the mind right to return. What was it like for you if that's the first time you've had to tackle that?
Yeah, it was difficult because when it happened, I thought I was okay. I thought I was good to go. I thought just tape it up and I'm fine, you know what I mean? And then imaging and stuff came back, and they kind of told me, hey, like, it's going to be a 5 to 6 week or even more than that. Like they were telling me the honest truth of being like, hey, you probably won't be able to play again this season. And I took that a little bit as a challenge. And at first it's a slow process because you want to start doing stuff, you feel good, but you got to let it heal a little bit before you can start ramping it up. And our athletic trainers are amazing, and the doctors and our facilities too helped so much with the underwater treadmill and just everything. So I was able to, in a way, come back faster than they expected. And I was actually practicing before the West Final there with the team, hoping to come back. But it was just like thinking about it and the whole process on it. It's a grueling process, and I feel bad for those guys that have to go the whole year with a surgery and stuff like that. For me, it was only those 5 to 6 weeks, but it's a process where you're like, you really start to miss the game, and you start to miss the little things that are taken away from you in those moments. And that's kind of how I took it. And I've vowed to myself now to always make sure that, yeah, it was a freak accident on how it happened. It had nothing to do with like me being out of shape or anything. But now I'm like, I'm going to take every advantage I can when I'm on this field.
So far, so good. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
That's Lake Corte Moore with Dave Thomas, voice of the Riders. Preseason will wrap Friday night at Mosaic Stadium. Bombers in town. Are we going to see Zach Collaros? I don't know. Maybe, potentially. What about Willie Jefferson? If you're Trevor Harris or Jake Mayer and Willie's in street clothes on the sidelines, it's one less thing to worry about. That's a tall man. Those knockdowns, man, he's been a game disruptor ever since he's been in this league, and he just seems to be getting better and better and better. For the game on Friday, weather looks to be great, and the 620 CKOM Cooperators Rider Broadcast Network pregame show is going to start at 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon. So what that means for the Sports Cage, we'll do Sports Cage from 3 to 4. You get an abbreviated show with Barney. And then we kick into the pregame show at 4. Dave and Luke will have the call. Kickoff goes just after 7 o'clock right here on the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a bit. It's 620 CKRM.